The darkness pressed against the windows of the starship like a living thing. Captain Lyra Moonwhisper stood on the bridge and watched the dead controls around her. The lights flickered once and went out again. She touched the wall with her long fingers and felt the cold metal. The ship was dying, and there was nothing she could do about it. 3 months ago, the Starweaver had been the pride of the Sylvan Coalition fleet. The ship carried the best minds from across known space on a mission to map new star systems. Now it drifted helpless between the stars like a piece of space junk. The hyperdrive had failed without warning and left them stranded in empty space. Lyra pulled her silver hair back and tied it with a piece of wire. Her people lived for thousands of years, and she had spent 500 of them in space. She had seen wars and wonders and the birth of new worlds, but she had never felt as helpless as she did now. The elves of her homeworld believed they were the masters of space travel. They had built ships when other races were still learning to make fire, yet all their knowledge meant nothing when the machines stopped working. The bridge door opened with a grinding sound. Zara walked in slowly. The blue-skinned engineer looked tired, and her usual smile was gone. She had been working on the engines for weeks without rest. Her people, the Andorians, were known for their technical skills, but even she could not fix what was broken. "Any luck with the power core?" Lyra asked. Zara shook her head. "The quantum matrix is completely fried. I tried rerouting through the backup systems, but they are failing too. We might have another week of life support if we are lucky." Lyra nodded and tried not to show her fear. A week was not enough time for rescue. The nearest coalition outpost was months away, even at full speed. No one would look for them here in the empty space between systems. They had told nobody about this route because it was supposed to be a simple mapping mission. The communications station crackled to life for a moment. Kira sat there with her hands pressed to her temples. The pale woman had been trying to send distress signals since the breakdown, but their transmitter was too weak. Her telepathic abilities meant nothing when there were no minds close enough to reach. "Still nothing," Kira said without opening her eyes. "I can barely get a signal past our own hull. If there is anyone out there, they would have to be very close to hear us." Maya stretched in her chair and yawned. The cat-like alien had been their navigator before the hyperdrive failed. Now there was nowhere to navigate to. Her golden eyes reflected the dim emergency lights as she looked at the star charts. "We could try the escape pods," she said quietly. "And go where?" Zara replied. "The nearest system is light years away. The pods only have a few days of supplies." Lyra walked to the main screen and stared at the stars. They looked so peaceful and beautiful from here. It was hard to believe they were about to become her tomb. She thought about her homeworld with its crystal cities and singing forests. She would never see them again. None of them would. The crew had started with 12 members from 6 different species. 2 had died when the engineering section lost pressure during the initial breakdown. Another had taken his own life rather than face slow starvation. The remaining 9 tried to keep working, but there was little hope left. Dr. Vale, the ship's medical officer, sat in the corner reading from an old book. The elderly woman had seen many species live and die in her long career. She seemed calm about their situation, but Lyra knew she was just as scared as the rest of them. The medical bay had no patients now, except for those suffering from malnutrition and despair. The food recyclers had failed a week ago. They were living on emergency rations that tasted like cardboard and had the consistency of paste. The water recycling still worked, but barely. Everything on the ship was breaking down piece by piece. The Starweaver had been built to last centuries, but space was harsh and unforgiving. Lyra remembered her first command over 200 years ago. She had been so confident then. The elves had technology that seemed like magic to younger races. Their ships could fold space and time. Their computers could predict the future. Their weapons could destroy planets. But all of that power meant nothing when you were alone in the dark. The artificial gravity fluctuated and everyone grabbed onto something solid. The ship groaned around them like a wounded animal. Lyra wondered how long before the hull itself started to fail. Space had infinite patience, and it would wait as long as needed to claim them. "Captain," Kira said suddenly. Her eyes snapped open, and she sat up straight. "I am getting something on the long-range sensors. It is very faint, but there is definitely a ship out there." Everyone on the bridge turned to look at her. For the first time in weeks, there was hope in their eyes. Lyra felt her heart beat faster. How far away? Hard to tell with our damaged equipment. Maybe a few hours at normal speed, but Captain? Kira paused and frowned. The energy signature is unlike anything in our databases. This is not a coalition ship or any known design. Maya jumped up from her station. Could it be the hegemony? She asked. Maybe they are finally expanding into this sector. Possible, Lyra said. She did not much like the hegemony, but she would take their help if it meant saving her crew. Try to boost our distress signal. If they can detect us, maybe they will investigate. The next few hours passed slowly. Everyone tried to look busy, but they were all watching the sensors. The unknown ship was getting closer, but it was still too far away to get a clear reading. Kira worked to clean up the signal while Zara tried to coax more power from the dying engines. Finally, the proximity alarms started to beep. The unknown vessel was close enough to see on the main screen. When the image appeared, everyone stared in silence. The ship looked like nothing they had ever seen before. It was blocky and angular, with no smooth curves or elegant lines. The hull appeared to be made from simple metal plates welded together. It looked more like a mining vessel than a starship. What kind of civilization builds ships like that? Maya whispered. Lyra shook her head. I have no idea, but they are our only hope now. The strange ship moved toward them with surprising speed. Its engines glowed with a bright blue light that hurt to look at directly. Lyra had never seen propulsion technology like it. The vessel changed course twice as it approached, and she realized. The pilot was scanning them from different angles. Kira pressed her hands to her forehead and concentrated. I am picking up thoughts from the other ship. The minds are alien but not hostile. They seem curious about us. And Captain, there are only 4 of them over there. 4 people on a ship that size, Zara said. That is either very brave or very stupid. The unknown vessel came to a stop just a few hundred meters away. It was much larger than Lyra had first thought. The blocky design made it hard to judge scale, but it had to be at least as big as the Star Weaver. Strange symbols were painted on the hull in bright yellow letters. The communication system crackled, and a voice came through speaking in a language none of them recognized. The words sounded harsh and choppy compared to the flowing speech of most spacefaring races. Kira worked to adjust the universal translator, but it was having trouble with the alien syntax. This is Captain Lisa Rodriguez of the Earth vessel Liberty Bell, came the translated voice. We received your distress signal and are here to offer assistance. Please respond if you can hear this transmission. Earth. None of them had heard of any planet by that name. Lyra looked around the bridge and saw the same confusion on every face. What kind of species called their world by such a simple name? Open a channel, Lyra ordered. She stepped forward and tried to project confidence. She did not feel. This is Captain Lyra Moonwhisper of the coalition vessel Star Weaver. We are grateful for your response. Our ship has suffered catastrophic system failures, and we are in need of immediate assistance. There was a pause before the reply came back. Understood, Starweaver. We are preparing to come aboard if you will permit it. Our engineer wants to take a look at your problems. Lyra hesitated. Allowing aliens onto her ship went against every regulation in the Coalition handbook, but regulations meant nothing when you were dying in space. Permission granted, Captain Rodriguez. Our docking bay is no longer functional, but you should be able to use airlocks 7 through 9 on the port side. Copy that. We will be over in 20 minutes. The channel closed and everyone looked at each other. They were about to meet a completely unknown species. Lyra wondered what these humans would look like. Most spacefaring races were similar in basic body structure, but there were always differences. Some had extra arms or different colored skin or unusual facial features. Should we meet them in the airlock? Maya asked. Yes, Lyra said. Full diplomatic courtesy. We may be begging for our lives, but we are still representatives of the coalition. She paused and looked around. And someone should probably clean up the bodies in Section 7. These humans do not need to see that. Zara and 2 other crew members went to move the corpses while Lyra gathered the remaining officers. They made their way to Airlock 8 and waited. The artificial gravity was weak here, and they had to hold on to the walls to stay upright. The air smelled stale and recycled. Through the small window, they could see a small craft approaching. It was even more primitive-looking than the main ship. The hull was scarred and dented like it had been through many battles, but it moved with precision and docked smoothly with their airlock. The cycle completed, and the inner door opened. 4 figures stepped through, and Lyra got her first look at humans. They were shorter than elves, but taller than most other species. Their skin was a brownish color, and they had hair on top of their heads like some mammals. What struck her most was how young they looked. Even accounting for species differences, these people seemed to be barely adults. The leader stepped forward and removed her helmet. She had short dark hair and bright brown eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. "Captain Moonwhisper, I am Lisa Rodriguez. This is my crew, Amy Chen, our pilot, Katie Walsh, our engineer, and Beth Thompson, our medical officer." The humans looked so ordinary. They wore simple uniforms without decoration or rank insignia. Their equipment was clearly functional rather than beautiful. Everything about them suggested a practical people who cared more about getting things done than looking impressive. "Welcome aboard the Starweaver," Lyra said formally. "Though I fear there is little left to welcome you to. Our ship is dying, and we have been unable to repair the damage." Lisa nodded seriously. "Katie, why don't you start with the engineering sections? Amy, can you check out their navigation systems? Beth, I want you to take a look at their injured crew members. I will stay here and coordinate with Captain Moonwhisper." The 3 humans scattered without waiting for permission. Lyra was shocked by their casual attitude. Most species would have spent hours in formal greetings and protocol discussions. These humans just started working immediately. "Your crew is very direct," Lyra observed. "Time is important when people are dying," Lisa replied. "We can talk about politics later. Right now I want to understand what happened to your ship." Over the next hour, Lyra explained the cascade failure that had crippled the Starweaver. Lisa asked detailed questions about systems that Lyra barely understood. The human captain seemed to grasp technical concepts that usually required years of study, but what surprised Lyra most was that Lisa treated her as an equal. Most younger species showed great deference to elves, but this human showed only professional respect. Katie came back first with grease on her hands and a puzzled expression. "Captain, I have been crawling through their engine spaces, and I think I know what happened. Their quantum matrix did not just fail randomly. Someone sabotaged it." Sabotage? Lyra felt the word like a physical blow. "That is impossible. My crew is completely loyal." "Maybe they are loyal to different things," Lisa said quietly. "Katie, are you certain about this?" "The damage is too precise to be accidental. Someone knew exactly which components to hit to cause maximum damage without triggering the automatic safety systems. This was done by someone with detailed knowledge of coalition technology." Beth returned next with a medical report that was equally disturbing. 3 of their crew members are suffering from more than just malnutrition. They have been slowly poisoned over the past several months. The symptoms would be easy to miss during a crisis, but the evidence is clear in their blood chemistry. Amy was the last to report back. "Their navigation computer has been compromised. Someone altered their flight path to bring them to this exact location. This was not a random breakdown, Captain. This ship was deliberately brought here and sabotaged." Lyra sat down heavily. Her perfect crew, her trusted officers, had betrayed her. Someone among her people had condemned them all to death. But why? What could possibly motivate such an act? "The question is whether the saboteur is still alive," Lisa said. "If they are, then we need to be very careful. They might try to sabotage any repair work we do." "I do not understand," Lyra said. "Why would anyone do this? We are explorers, not warriors. Our mission was peaceful." "Sometimes peace is exactly what some people want to prevent," Lisa replied. "Katie, how long do you think it will take to fix their engines?" "With the right parts, maybe 2 days. But, Captain, we do not have the right parts. Their technology is completely different from ours. I can jury-rig some temporary solutions, but they will not hold for long." "Then we better work fast," Lisa said. "Because according to Amy, someone has been broadcasting their location. If I had to guess, I would say the saboteur was calling for backup. We may not be alone out here much longer." Katie Walsh crawled through the maintenance shaft with her tools hanging from her belt. The space was barely wide enough for her shoulders, but she moved through it like she had been doing this her whole life. Behind her, she could hear Zara struggling. to keep up. The Andorian engineer was taller and found the cramped spaces difficult to navigate. "How can you move so easily in here?" Zara panted as they reached another junction. "Practice," Katie replied. "Human ships are built for efficiency, not comfort. We learn to work in tight spaces because we have to." She stopped and pointed her light at a burned-out control panel. "There, look at that. Your saboteur knew exactly where to hit." The damage was surgical in its precision. Someone had carefully overloaded specific circuits to create a cascade failure. The beautiful elven technology lay in ruins, but Katie was already seeing ways to fix it. Human engineering was cruder, but also more adaptable. Where the elves built elegant systems that worked perfectly until they broke humans, built systems that could be repaired with spare parts and determination. "This should be impossible to fix," Zara said sadly. "The quantum matrix requires rare materials that we do not have. Even if we could fabricate replacement parts, it would take weeks." Katie grinned and pulled out a small device from her toolkit. "Maybe if you try to rebuild it exactly the same way. But what if we do not rebuild it at all? What if we bypass the quantum matrix entirely and use a different approach?" "That would never work. The power requirements alone would be enormous. Not if we use a different kind of power." Katie began connecting her device to the elven systems. "Human ships use fusion reactors instead of quantum matrices, crude but reliable. I brought some spare reactor components just in case we needed them." Zara watched in amazement as Katie began rerouting power systems that had been designed by the greatest elven engineers. The human woman worked with confidence and creativity that went against everything Zara had learned about proper engineering. Yet somehow it was working. Meanwhile, in the medical bay, Beth Thompson was treating patients with methods that baffled Dr. Vale. The human medic used simple tools and basic medicines, but she got results that the advanced elven medical systems could not achieve. She had already stabilized 2 crew members who were near death. "Your techniques are very unorthodox," Dr. Vale observed as Beth prepared another treatment. "Unorthodox, maybe, but they work," Beth replied. "Sometimes the simple approach is the best." "Approach? Your people rely too much on complex technology. When that technology fails, you are helpless." She was treating Kira, the telepathic communications officer, who had been slowly poisoned over months. The elven medical computers could identify the poison but could not neutralize it. Beth was using a combination of human antidotes and elven medicines to create a new treatment. "How do you know this will work?" Dr. Vale asked. "I do not," Beth admitted. "But doing nothing definitely will not work. Sometimes you have to take risks and hope for the best." On the bridge, Amy Chen was working with Maya to repair the navigation systems. The cat-like alien watched in fascination as Amy rebuilt the computer, using parts from 3 different systems. The human pilot seemed to understand instinctively how different technologies could work together. "This is impossible," Maya said. "These components were never designed to interface with each other." "Designed, no," Amy agreed. "But that does not mean they cannot work together. You just have to find the right connections." She patched a human computer core into the elven navigation array and somehow made it function. "There, see. It is not pretty, but it works." The jury-rigged system looked like a disaster, but it was already providing more accurate readings than the original equipment. Amy had somehow improved the ship's sensors by combining human and elven technology in ways that neither species had thought possible. Captain Lisa Rodriguez moved through the ship coordinating the repair efforts with an efficiency that impressed even Lyra. The human captain seemed to be everywhere at once, directing her crew and solving problems as they arose. She treated the alien crew members as equals and listened to their suggestions without prejudice. "Your people work very differently than mine," Lyra observed as they watched Katie emerge from another maintenance shaft, covered in grease but smiling. "Different is not always worse," Lisa replied. "Your technology is far more advanced than ours, but sometimes simple solutions work better than complex ones, and sometimes you need to be willing to take risks." The humans had been working for 12 hours straight without complaint. They ate their meals standing up and took turns sleeping in short shifts. Their dedication was inspiring the alien crew to work harder than they had in months. Even crew members who had given up hope were now helping with the repairs, but the most remarkable thing was how the humans approached each problem. Where the elves would consult manuals and follow established procedures, the humans experimented and improvised. They made mistakes, but they learned from them quickly. They were not afraid to try new things, even if those things had never been tested before. Katie finally announced that the engines were ready for testing. She had bypassed the quantum matrix entirely and installed a human fusion reactor in its place. The combination of technologies should not have worked, but somehow it did. The Starweaver now had power again. Life support is stable, Zara reported with wonder in her voice. Environmental systems are coming online. We have heat and light for the first time in weeks. Beth had successfully treated all the poisoned crew members and they were recovering rapidly. Her simple medicines had worked better than the most advanced, elven treatments. Dr. Vale was already asking to learn human medical techniques. Amy had restored not just navigation, but also communications. The ship could now send messages across interstellar distances again, but the first thing she detected was incoming ships moving toward their position at high speed. "Captain," Amy called out. "We have company coming, multiple vessels approaching, from the outer system. They will be here in less than 6 hours." Lisa studied the sensor readings with a grim expression. Military vessels by their configuration, fast and heavily armed. "Katie, how long before we can get the hyperdrive working?" "At least 8 hours, maybe 10, Katie replied. "The fusion reactor is running, but I still need to integrate it with the hyperdrive systems." "Then we have a problem," Lisa said. "We cannot run and we cannot hide. That leaves only one option." Lyra looked at the human captain with growing respect. These people had accomplished in hours what her crew could not do in months. They had brought her ship back from the dead, using nothing but determination and ingenuity. But now they were all facing a new threat, and she wondered if even human resourcefulness would be enough to save them. "What do you suggest, Captain Rodriguez?" Lyra asked. Lisa smiled, but there was no humor in it. "We fight. Your ship has weapons, does it not? And the Liberty Bell may not look like much, but we have a few surprises of our own. If someone wants to stop us from leaving, then they are going to have to work for it." The alien crew looked at her with a mixture of fear and admiration. This human woman was talking about fighting military warships with a damaged exploration vessel and a primitive human ship. It should have been impossible. But then, everything the humans had done should have been impossible. Maybe impossible was just another challenge for humans to overcome. The approaching ships appeared on the main screen, like deadly stars growing brighter by the minute. Lyra counted 6 vessels, all sleek and predatory-looking. She recognized the design immediately, and her heart sank. Caitian warships were among, the most advanced in known space. Their crews were disciplined, and their weapons could destroy planets. "Those are military cruisers," Maya said quietly from her station. "Heavy shields, multiple weapon systems, and faster than anything else in this sector." She paused, and her cat-like ears flattened against her head. "Captain, I need to tell you something." Everyone on the bridge turned to look at her. The golden-eyed navigator had been acting strangely since the humans arrived. Now she stood up slowly with her hands away from the controls. "The sabotage was my doing," Maya said in a voice barely above a whisper. "I damaged the engines and poisoned the crew members. I sent the signal that brought those ships here." The silence that followed was deafening. Lyra felt like someone had struck her in the chest. Maya had been with her crew for 15 years. She was quiet and reliable and had never shown any sign of disloyalty. The betrayal cut deeper than any physical wound. "Why?" was all Lyra could manage to say. Maya's ears drooped further. "My people believe that primitive species should be eliminated before they become a threat. When the Coalition decided to explore this sector, we knew we would eventually encounter the humans. My government ordered me to prevent that contact by any means necessary." "So you decided to murder your own crewmates," Zara said with anger in her blue-skinned face. "I thought you would be rescued before anyone died," Maya replied. "The plan was to strand you here until a Caitian fleet could arrive. We would blame the breakdown on human interference and use it as justification to attack their homeworld." Lisa Rodriguez had been listening without comment, but now she stepped forward. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were hard as steel. "How many people have died because of your plan?" 3 on this ship, Maya whispered. "But if the humans are allowed to spread across the galaxy, millions more will die. Your species is too dangerous to be left alone. Dangerous how? Lisa asked. You adapt too quickly. You learn too fast. You take risks that no rational species would take. In a few hundred years, you will be a threat to every established civilization in the galaxy. Amy Chen laughed from the pilot station. So you decided to commit genocide to prevent us from being dangerous. Do you see the irony in that? The Cation ships were close enough now to open communications. The face that appeared on the screen was lean and predatory with golden eyes like Maya's. This is Admiral Sharpclaw of the Cation Defense Force. Surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. Lisa moved to the captain's chair without asking permission. This is Captain Rodriguez of the Earth vessel Liberty Bell. We are conducting a lawful rescue operation in neutral space. You have no authority here. Humans, the Admiral snarled. Your very existence is a threat to galactic stability. We have evidence that you attacked and sabotaged the Coalition vessel. Surrender now, or be destroyed. Evidence provided by your spy, no doubt, Lisa replied calmly. Admiral, your own agent just confessed to the sabotage. Are you really going to attack a rescue mission based on lies? The Admiral's expression did not change. Human lies cannot be trusted. Prepare to die. The transmission ended, and the Cation ships began to spread out in an attack formation. They moved with deadly precision, each one taking a position to maximize their firepower. The Starweaver was surrounded with no chance of escape. Katie Howe. Are those engines coming? Lisa called out. Still need 4 hours minimum, came the reply from engineering. The fusion reactor is stable, but integrating it with the hyperdrive is delicate work. Then we buy you 4 hours, Lisa said. She turned to Lyra. Captain, I need to know what weapons your ship has and how quickly we can get them online. Lyra was still staring at Maya with hurt and confusion. The betrayal had shaken her more than she wanted to admit. Particle beams and photon torpedoes. But our targeting systems are damaged and we have no shields. Amy, can you jury-rig something for targeting? Lisa asked. Already working on it. Amy replied. Her hands flew over the controls as she connected human computers to elven weapon systems. I can give you manual targeting, but it will not be very accurate. Better than nothing. Beth, I need you to coordinate damage control. Zara, can you get us any kind of defensive shields? The blue-skinned engineer was already working on the problem. I can reroute power from non-essential systems. It will not stop a direct hit, but it might deflect some of the energy. Lisa turned to the communications station. Kira, I need you to coordinate with my ship. We are going to try something that has never been done before. The telepathic woman nodded. What do you need me to do? Link our targeting computers. If we can share sensor data between both ships, we might be able to coordinate our attacks. It was an insane plan. The Liberty Bell was a small exploration vessel with limited weapons. The Starweaver was damaged and barely functional. Together they were facing 6 military warships designed for battle. By any rational calculation, they should surrender and hope for mercy. But humans were not always rational. The first attack came without warning. Beams of energy lanced out from the Cation ships and struck the Starweaver's hull. The ship shook violently and lights flickered on the bridge. Alarms began screaming throughout the vessel. Return fire, Lisa ordered. The Starweaver's weapons responded sluggishly, but they responded. Beams of blue energy reached out toward the nearest Cation ship. Most missed, but one beam struck home, and the enemy vessel's shields flared bright. The Liberty Bell was moving now, darting between the larger ships like an angry insect. Its weapons were primitive compared to the others, but Amy was flying it in ways that should have been impossible. She used the ship's small size and maneuverability to stay ahead of the targeting computers. Concentrate fire on the lead ship, Lisa called out. If we can disable their commander, the others might hesitate. It was easier said than done. The Cation ships were spreading out to prevent the humans from concentrating their attacks. Their shields were holding against the combined firepower of both human and elven weapons. But Lisa was not trying to win through superior firepower. Amy, bring us alongside that cruiser. Katie, I need you to overload our fusion reactor. Captain, that will destroy us along with them, Katie protested. Not if you time it right. We ram them and eject the reactor core just before impact. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons, not physical objects. It was the kind of desperate plan that only humans would attempt. Using their own ship as a weapon was something no other species would consider. but Amy was already changing course to intercept the lead Cation vessel. The enemy admiral appeared on screen again. "You are insane, human. You cannot possibly win." "Maybe not," Lisa replied. "But we can make sure you do not win either." The Liberty Bell accelerated toward the Cation flagship like a missile. The enemy ship tried to turn away, but it was too late. At the last second, Katie ejected the overloaded fusion reactor, and Amy pulled the ship into a desperate turn. The explosion lit up space like a new star. When the light faded, the Cation flagship was drifting helpless with its engines destroyed. The other 5 ships hesitated for a crucial moment as they tried to understand what had just happened. That moment was all the humans needed to turn the tide of battle. The explosion of the fusion reactor created a massive electromagnetic pulse that disrupted the Cation formation. Their ships scattered like startled birds trying to re-establish communications and sensor contact. In that moment of confusion, Lisa Rodriguez saw her chance. "All ships concentrate fire on the damaged flagship," she ordered. "Do not let them repair their engines." The Starweaver and Liberty Bell poured everything they had into the crippled Cation vessel. Without shields or maneuverability, the flagship was helpless. Its hull cracked under the sustained assault, and atmosphere began venting into space. The ship was finished as a fighting unit. Admiral Sharpclaw appeared on the communication screen one last time. His perfect uniform was torn, and there was blood on his face. "This is not over, human. My people will hunt your species to extinction for this." "Your people started this fight," Lisa replied. "We just finished it." The transmission cut off as the flagship lost power completely. The remaining 5 Cation ships regrouped, but their confidence was shaken. They had expected an easy victory against primitive humans and damaged aliens. Instead, they had lost their command ship to an enemy that should not have been able to fight back. Katie's voice crackled over the intercom from the engineering section. "Captain, the hyperdrive is ready. We can jump to light speed whenever you give the word." But Lisa was not ready to run yet. She had seen something in the way the Cation ships moved that gave her an idea. Their tactics were sophisticated but predictable. They followed standard military doctrine without deviation. That made them vulnerable to unexpected strategies. "Amy, I need you to take us into the asteroid field," Lisa ordered. The pilot looked at her like she was crazy. "Captain, that field is dense enough to tear us apart." "Not us, them." Lisa pointed at the Cation ships. "Their vessels are too large to maneuver safely in there, but we can use the asteroids as cover and weapons." It was another insane human plan. Most species would never consider flying into an asteroid field during a battle. The risk of collision was enormous, and the tactical advantage was questionable. But humans had a different relationship with risk than other species. The Liberty Bell dove into the swirling field of rock and ice, with Amy at the controls. The ship twisted and turned between massive asteroids, some as large as small moons. Behind them, the Cation vessels hesitated. Their commanders knew that following would be extremely dangerous, but they could not let the humans escape. The 5 remaining ships entered the asteroid field in formation, trying to maintain their numerical advantage. It was exactly what Lisa had hoped they would do. "Now," she called out. "Target the large asteroid at bearing 27 Mark IV. Both human and elven weapons fired simultaneously at a massive chunk of rock floating between the Cation ships. The asteroid exploded in a shower of debris that hammered the enemy vessels. Their shields flared and overloaded under the unexpected bombardment. "Again," Lisa ordered. "Take out that ice chunk on the starboard side." Another explosion, another rain of deadly fragments. The Cation ships were taking damage faster than their shields could absorb it. Worse, they were trapped in the asteroid field with limited room to maneuver. Every direction they turned seemed to lead to more danger. One of the enemy cruisers tried to break away from the formation. Amy was waiting for exactly that move. She brought the Liberty Bell around behind the fleeing vessel and fired everything they had at its engines. The Cation ship spun out of control and crashed into a massive asteroid. The explosion lit up the entire field. 4 ships left, Amy reported with satisfaction. The remaining Cation vessels were learning to be more careful. They advanced slowly through the asteroid field, using their sensors to plot safe courses. But that caution was exactly what Lisa was counting on. Predictable enemies were vulnerable enemies. "Lyra, I need your people to prepare for a boarding action," Lisa said. The elf captain stared at her in amazement. "You want to board a Cation warship during a battle in an asteroid field?" "Why not?" Lisa grinned. "They will never expect it." It was the most human response imaginable. When faced with impossible odds, humans did not surrender or despair. They found a way to make the impossible work in their favor. Within minutes, a joint boarding party was ready, including humans, elves, and other alien crew members working together. The boarding action was swift and decisive. The Cations were so focused on navigating the asteroid field that they never saw the attack coming. By the time they realized what was happening, human and alien boarding parties were already inside their ships. The fighting was fierce, but brief. Maya had been locked in the Starweaver's brig during the battle, but now she watched the results on a security monitor. Her perfect plan had fallen apart because she had underestimated human determination. The species she had tried to destroy had instead saved everyone, including her. When the battle ended, 3 Cation ships had been captured and the 4th had surrendered. The mighty fleet that was supposed to eliminate the human threat had been defeated by 2 damaged vessels and a lot of human ingenuity. It was a victory that would be remembered across the galaxy. Captain Lyra Moonwhisper stood on the bridge of her repaired ship and looked at the stars with new eyes. The humans had saved her crew and taught her something important. True strength did not come from advanced technology or superior weapons. It came from the willingness to adapt, improvise, and work together when everything seemed hopeless. "What will happen to Maya?" Dr. Vale asked. "She will stand trial for her crimes," Lyra replied. "But she will receive fair treatment. We are not like the people who sent her." Lisa Rodriguez appeared on the communication screen from the Liberty. Bell. Her ship had taken damage in the battle, but it was still functional. "Captain Moonwhisper, we need to discuss what happens next. This incident is going to cause problems for both our species." "What do you suggest?" Lyra asked. "A joint exploration fleet," Lisa said without hesitation. "Your people have the technology and experience. My people have the adaptability and tactical skills. Together, we can explore regions of space that neither of us could handle alone." It was a radical proposal. The coalition had never formed equal partnerships with primitive species. But then humans had proven they were not as primitive as anyone had thought. Their technology might be simple, but their capabilities were extraordinary. "I will need to discuss this with my government," Lyra said carefully. "Of course. But Captain, while you are discussing it, we should probably investigate that." Lisa pointed toward the edge of the system where long-range sensors had detected something. Massive, moving in the dark. The object was huge, larger than any known ship or space station. It was also old, older than any current civilization. Ancient symbols covered its hull in scripts that predated written history. Whatever it was, it had been waiting in the dark between stars for thousands of years. "We are going to need all the help we can get to explore that thing," Lisa said quietly. Lyra nodded in agreement. The galaxy was full of mysteries and dangers that no single species could face alone. But together, humans and aliens might be able to handle whatever challenges awaited them in the depths of space. The Starweaver and Liberty Bell set course for the ancient artifact side by side. Behind them followed the captured Cation vessels, now crewed by joint human and alien teams. It was the beginning of something new in galactic history. The age of human expansion had begun, and the universe would never be the same.